Eyewitness account, atomic bomb mission number 1. Cameraman Johnson, soundman Holder. Location, Tokyo.
The magnitude of the disaster that befell Hiroshima on August the 6th was only slowly pieced together in my mind. I lived through the catastrophe and saw it only in flashes, which only gradually emerged to give me a total picture. What actually happened simultaneously in the city as a whole is as follows. As a result of the explosion of the bomb at 8:15, almost the entire city was destroyed at a single blow. Only small outlying districts in the southern and eastern parts of the town escaped complete destruction. The bomb exploded over the center of the city. As much as 6 kilometers from the center of the explosion, all houses were damaged and many collapsed and caught fire. Even 15 kilometers away, windows were broken. Those who had lived through the catastrophe placed the number of the dead at least 100,000. Estimates made by ourselves on the basis of groups known to us show that the number of 100,000 dead is not too high. The major died, the president of the Central Japan district, the commander of the city, a Korean prince who had been stationed in Hiroshima in the capacity of an officer, and many other high-ranking officers. Of the professors of the university, 32 were killed or severely injured. Especially hard hit were the soldiers. The pioneer regiment was almost entirely wiped out. The barracks were near the center of the explosion. Thousands of wounded who died later could doubtless have been rescued had they received proper treatment and care. But rescue work in a catastrophe of this magnitude had not been envisioned. Since the whole city had been knocked out at a blow, everything which had been prepared for emergency work was lost, and no preparation had been made for rescue work in the outlying districts. Only several cases are known to me personally where individuals who did not have external burns later died. There were rumors that the ruins of the city emitted deadly rays and that many workers who went there to aid in the clearing died, and that the central district would be uninhabitable for some time to come. I have my doubts as to whether such talk is true, and myself and others who worked in the ruined era for some hours shortly after the explosion suffered no such ill effects. None of us in those days heard a single outburst against the Americans on the part of the Japanese, nor was there any evidence of a vengeful spirit. The Japanese suffered this terrible blow as part of the fortunes of war, something to be borne without complaint. During this war, I have noted relatively little hatred towards the Allies on the part of the people themselves, although the press had taken occasion to stir up such feelings. After the victories at the beginning of the war, the enemy was rather looked down upon. But when Allied offensive gathered momentum, and especially after the advent of the majestic B-29s, The technical skill of America became an object of wonder and admiration. We have discussed among ourselves the ethics of the use of the bomb. Some consider it in the same category as poison gas and were against its use on a civilian population. Others were of the view that in total war, as carried on in Japan, there was no difference between civilians and soldiers, and that the bomb itself was an effective force tending to end the bloodshed, warning Japan to surrender and thus to avoid total destruction. It seems logical to me that he who supports total war in principle cannot complain of a war against civilians. The crux of the matter is whether total war in its present form is justifiable even when it serves a just purpose. Does it not have material and spiritual evil as its consequences which far exceed whatever the good that might result? When will our moralists give us a clear answer to this question?
Ready. Action.
Father, would you introduce yourself, please?
I am Father John Zemus, Professor of Philosophy at the Catholic University of Tokyo, which is under management of the Jesuit fathers.
What were you doing in Hiroshima at the time of the explosion?
Well, my philosophical class was evacuated from Tokyo to Hiroshima about 5 months ago, and I was staying with my class at a house of studies at the outskirts of the city of Hiroshima.
Could you describe exactly what happened in the morning of August the 6th?
I was in my room, which faces the valley, and suddenly I saw a light, like magnesium light, flashlight, which filled the whole valley. And looking out of my window to find out the reason for this peculiar phenomena, I saw nothing besides this light, and turning from the window to the door of my room, I heard a crash. It may have been 10 seconds after seeing the light, the flashlight, and immediately I was covered with splinters of the window frames and glass sticking into the walls and actually in my flesh itself. I tried to get out of my room, but found that our house had been severely damaged by the blast of this explosion. I had the impression at that time that the bomb had immediately crashed on our house. So severe, so strong was the effect of the percussion. But looking outside the house, I saw no trace of the bomb itself, but about a kilometer away from our houses, I saw several peasant houses which were on fire. After a while, we saw a procession of people coming from the outskirts of the city up the valley. Many of them, most of them, were wounded, especially the parts of the body which were not covered by clothes, like hands, feet, back. They came up to our house, and we did what we could, but there were no possibility to give much of aid. As a matter of fact, we used all our grease we had at that wartime in the house, and it was exhausted in a moment.
How many people do you think were killed? How many people do you think were killed?
All of us who lived through this experience at the spot estimate the numbers of death at least at 100,000. This estimate is not based on official figures, but just on a knowledge of special groups in under the population. For example, the Protestant girls' schools numbered 600 pupils. From these 600 pupils, only 40 or 50 survived.
Do you know of any individuals who had no external injury but who died later?
Only a few cases are known personally to me who died afterwards without having external burns.